the DC fan gives hope, and this is a video. Not it's not really about DC. It's just about how a franchise like Star Wars is dead to me. Something that used to be so much meaning to my life, so much, my hobby, my collection, my passion. I spent loads of money on it, figures, dolls, books, information books, folders, figures, games, basically anything that had the name brand on it, and I would get into it. I would look at the lore, I would find out about what the Force was about. Everything that's basically had the George Lucas sign of approval, I've read it. Board games, you name it, I've done it. Computer games. So I went to see The Force Awakens, as you may have noticed in my other videos, and I hated it. I really, really hated it, and I didn't. And I went to see the next one because it had nothing to do with the timeline. It was something to do with I can't even remember the name of it. That's fine. About getting the plans to the Death Star, and I fell asleep through it. It wasn't until the last 30 minutes of the film that I sprung awake, when it was like a lot of action and Darth Vader with a lightsaber. But apart from that, it didn't feel Star Wars. None of these Disney films feel like Star Wars because it's done by a different guy. You can tell, if you look at the first 6 movies, that Lucas was involved in, the colour scheme and everything else. It just felt, it was under the influence of the one guy. So I saw this and I thought, that sort of sums me up. Star Wars The Last Jedi had his records and falling. I said a toy shipment down sharply from Force Awakens.
Ruined it! What's ruined by it? Star Wars is ruined! Kathleen Kennedy's horrible! They ruined it! This is the worst day of my life! They ruined it! Finally, I'm floating like a big loser! She was all floating along! Finally, I'm floating like a big loser!
Now, you ask me, have I seen it? No. And I don't want to see it because I think it'll just anger me more and it'll get me to shout and swear at the TV. Why? What has these films got have these impact of? Because you build up your own sort of ideology of the characters. Now, Mark Hamill has come out and said, right, we don't, his feelings on it, and yeah, he's retracted whatever he said. That's because, can you imagine the sort of backlash he would get from people that did like the fans from Star Wars, people that agree with them? It'd be like his podcast or whatever he's got going for himself would be full of. Also, you would have Disney studio executives coming on, and it's just, oh, maybe I should have kept my mouth shut. No, you shouldn't have. And for anybody that disagrees with an actor, at least he's passionate about the character that made him famous, that made, like Carrie Fisher said to him, you're going to be Luke for life, you're going to be Leia for life, and, so now he's saying, oh, maybe I was wrong about the film, and maybe I don't know. Well, it looks like Mark Hamill's original thing was right. It has dropped dramatically, and it has that effect. You shouldn't be going towards a Star Wars film, leaving it and saying Star Wars is ruined now. Star Wars is ruined. And to get a fan upset like that knows that you've done something wrong. Now the director has came out and said that he didn't care. He was just making his film. He didn't care if you liked it or loved it. He wanted to set it up. The fact that he said he didn't care rang bells to me. Because it's okay doing that, but with whatever other franchise that's out there just now. But Star Wars is huge. Star Wars is global. And of course it made $1 billion or whatever. It's Star Wars. Generations for the last, from the 1970s I've went to see this. Old generation to grandkids, even in the start of the 70s, went to see this. And it's went on from generation to generation. The original 3 movies. So to even touch upon anything about those original first 3 movies is dangerous territory. And that's how I felt with Force Awakens. Now, in Force Awakens, there are so many things and I didn't like. I can't bear myself to watch it. Again, it touches on the original stars and cast and whatnot, and you can tell the director just wanted to put a lot of wee homages in there and wee nods to make it the same feel, but it didn't have the same feel. It had that sort of grainy, because it's J.J. Abrams. There's some scenes in it could be shot the same way as Cloverfield. But for me, the major issue was first the relationships between the characters. As we left the Return of the Jedi, you had Luke, defeat. You had the rebels defeat the Empire and stuff like that, and the big victory dances was made, and oh my god, there's a work out there. So big victory dances was made, and then lo and behold, nothing ever came of it. It was, there's still an empire out there. There's still some sort of Sith Lord out there. So all the celebrations went to nothing. Han and Leia must have got together at some point, had a kid, but the marriage fell apart again. They all went their separate ways, and their kid turns into this nasty little person that went and goes ahead and kills the father, Han. Again, bad sort of, depiction of a Han Solo character. And then you've got when Han gets killed, they come back with Chewie, and again the director, J.J. Abrams puts his hand up, apologises the fact that Leia didn't first of all run to Chewie, the long lost friend. Then you've got scenarios where not only are they fighting the Empire, but they're also, discovering that there's this big planet with a big gun on the side of it. But they didn't sort of notice it at first. Then it's suddenly coming along the terminology that this film is starting to feel like A New Hope. And then you've got a woman that can mind read after it took Luke couple of movies to sort of master the arts, but she's alright, she's fine. Then she defeats a baddie that sort of deminimises the threat that the baddies ever got. So if they were ever to fight again, well, she already fought them in the beginning. Why not beat that person again? So then you've got Luke, what Mark Hamill also says that scene where the lightsaber's in the ground and Rey pulls, see I remembered her name, pulls the lightsaber from the ground. Mark Hamill also thought that was the scene where he was going to get the lightsaber. But no, instead Mark Hamill's Luke Skywalker is on a wee island in Ireland feeling sorry for himself. Now I may be all wrong, right? There might be more to this in The Last Jedi. It must be, I may be way off because we don't know much, but The Last Jedi wasn't even written. It was not written until maybe a year or two after The Force Awakens. So again, there's no forward planning, I think, there's no forward. He's on the planet. As we left Luke and Han and Leia, best buddies. Okay, they would have done anything. In The Empire Strikes Back, you had Luke calling for Leia. Help me, Leia. Right? So he would have heard Leia's call and would have came and helped his buddy Han. And I could go on and on and on, and why Force Awakens really was just, it just, for me, finished off the last, the Return of the Jedi. To me, Return of the Jedi is the end of my Star Wars. Okay, I loved the prequels. It opened up again, much bigger scope. It opened up different universes. It brought new books, even though there were books in it. And yeah, as I said earlier on, I've read books. I've read the comics. I've read the the graphic novels. I've read the novels. Right up until 2 years ago, I've been reading them. I've got the CDs, audios, books on the Jedi Academy and the Yu Zhong Vong, Chewie's death in the books and everything like that. But the difference with all these expanded universes is that it was under the guidelines of Lucas. Now, what we heard in that video, it was some lassie screaming, cursing Kathleen Kennedy, because Lucas had left this sort of franchise with thinking that Kathleen Kennedy would oversee things, because she was Lucas's right-hand woman. And the fans now feel that they have just peeved all over Star Wars. So there's... so now we come to The Last Jedi, and yep, I've not got an inkling to see it, because I adore it because of what I've already read, and I may be way off there, but the fans have spoken and have warned me, and what I believe is, like the last one was quite dig me with the New Hope similarities. This one seems to represent The Empire Strikes Back. So again, they're just trying to feed off what made the original movies. They didn't come with fresh ideas. What I believe the Star Wars franchise should have done was leave the original characters alone and come with something new. Right? If you wanted to, yeah, include Luke Skywalker, whatever. But you could also have had him as past Jedi Master and have this set in the future where his younglings have now taken over, and give the original characters some sort of nice ending. Have them look at the history books or something, but leave beloved characters alone, and then you could start fresh. Now I hear the signs of new force powers and new this and that, and again, when you look at books written about the force and how it's handled, and even in the novels and the stories and stuff, it gives you an idea. And some people may claim, but that's the expanded universe, that doesn't count. It's got Lucas's approval. Main thing, Lucas's approval. It's his idea, his creation. And you've got to pay homage to the fans that have invested so much money into the franchise. It's only the fans that has prompted Disney to buy Star Wars. I've now grown to really despise Disney. I feel it's definitely an enemy to the movie business, because it's monopolising it. It's becoming some sort of, I'll not say Hitler's regime, but it's paving the way that, it's just took over Fox. So there's so many franchises that Fox has got just now, and now it's all under the one sort of way of making movies, like Kevin Feige has with Marvel films, which I believe is, although, as I say, money and people that's interested, they're buying into it because it's Disney. It's for family, it's for fun, but there's no diversity in it. All Marvel films to me has been a letdown. And I could say, you could call me biased because I'm a DC fan, but most of the films feel the same way to me. It's the same story, And I think the nail on the coffin has to be Spider-Man Homecoming. Being a fan of Spider-Man, I watched that film and didn't even recognise what this Spider-Man was. You know, it's some sort of off-cut from Iron Man with this techno suit. It had Flash Thompson as some sort of weird coloured smart aleck, and Flash Thompson was never a smart aleck. I don't care what skin colour he was, black or white, even though in the comics he was a white guy, and maybe you didn't want to also show a black person being sort of a bully. You know what I mean? It's slippery ground, but the best way to go forward for me when it's dealing with comic book characters is treat them the way they were written. Okay? If you want to change colour of skin, fine. Background, but the core of the character's got to be there. You know, and Flash Thompson was a bully. And then you had Spider-Man sort of getting all this techno suit and everything, and it just, to me, wasn't Spider-Man. And again, that's Disney's involvement with another franchise, and again, critics lap it up. Whatever has got a Disney name to it, people just put 4 stars to it. They did the same with The Last Jedi. And we have seen, now we look at the cinema scores, and the cinema audience hates them. They gave fresh scores to Sharknado. The cinema audience hated it. They gave it fresh to the Ghostbusters revival. Cinema audience hated it. Audience have spoken. Fans have spoken. But still you go along and say, no, it's a hit and everything else. For me, I can only sum up what maybe The Last Jedi is all about. I can tell for her reaction, Leia gets killed, Luke gets killed, and probably not a big stylised way either. And powers are maybe introduced. Luke, the way he's dealing with the enemy, there's probably nothing. We wanted something heroic from Luke. Probably don't get that much. We still got the whiny kid and everything else. And I feel that if I was to ever see it, I would be like that girl. And now when I hear the Star Wars tune, it just irritates me. It aggravates me because, you know, your mind goes, there will be people going to see that who, because it's one of these films now, that has half the audience, half the fan base, you know, it's divisive between the fans who love it now, dislike it, like it, hate it. It's, not everyone loves it now. You could say the same thing about the prequels, but I believe people are warming up to them because it never harmed the original trilogy, or only added. This feels like it's taken away from the fan base. Now, I have spoke to friends and colleagues or whatever that enjoyed the film and thought it was something, but they never watched. They never got into it as much as fans did, like myself, read books and read things and, you know, fact files and everything else, and spent most of their hard-earned cash onto it. So they were just watching it as a sort of movie project. I even went out and bought the Clone Wars cartoons. You know, I'll put it in a nutshell. It's like, if you're a fan of Lord of the Rings, there is a book called the Silmarillion. Right? Anyway, forget the title, but there is a book there that is meant to tell the backstory, the sort of fact file of Lord of the Rings. So if they were ever to make if they were to make a movie that sort of contradicts that's in this Silmarillion or whatever it is, right? And then there'll be a public outcry because it's there in a book, you know, giving you facts and things about the history of the Jedi. History of Middle Earth. So you can imagine Lord of the Rings fans would be up and at 'em about that. So this is what it feels like when you watch Jedi, these new Star Wars films. It's all those years invested in books and everything else that were approved by the Lucasfilm, by George Lucas himself, has now went. So for me, with Disney, who's, as I say, has bought Fox, has bought, they could buy a lot of other companies. It's now, for me, it's a way where they can destroy the film industry by only having the one vision. And sadly enough, and it may be the case that Star Wars will always make a billion because of its history, but it's a history for it's a legacy for some now, like myself, that has been snatched away. You know, well, I can't look forward to another Star Wars film. I could have if they handled the characters correctly in the first place, and then moved on to this new Star Wars. But I believe there's nobody at the helm at these movies. Nobody's respecting the past. It felt like, let's quickly get rid of the originals and make something new for the next generation. But Star Wars has been timeless. The original movies has been timeless and has went on into the hearts and minds of everyone for the last, since 1970s, and now that has been taken away and ruined and spoiled. So as the rest of the world celebrates the next Star Wars movie, there'll be a segment of fans out there that can no longer feel a part of the community. You know, and maybe might try and feel a part of the community by still dressing up, but it'll be a very argumentative and more of a hostile sort of place. When I say hostile, I don't mean you're going to go out and fight, but there'll be arguments where there shouldn't be. There should be a appreciation of everything Star Wars, but sadly there's not. And that is why I hate Disney, for they took it away. Thank you very much.